reign was like and had indeed against us passed, but that the scambling and unquiet time did push it out of farther question.
But how, my lord, shall we resist it now?
It must be thought on. If it pass against us, we lose the better half of our possession. For all the temporal lands which men devout by testament have given to the church, would they strip from us?
This would drink deep.
'Twould drink the cup and all.
But what prevention?
The king is full of grace and fair regard.
And a true lover of the Holy Church.
The courses of his youth promised it not. The breath no sooner left his father's body, but that his wildness mortified in him seemed to die too.
We are blessed in the change.
Hear him but reason in divinity, and all admiring with an inward wish, you would desire the king were made a prelate. Hear him debate of commonwealth affairs, you'd say it hath been all in all his study. List his discourse of war, and you shall hear a fearful battle rendered you in music. Turn him to any cause of policy, the Gordian knot of it he will unloose, familiar as his garter, that when he speaks the air, a chartered libertine is still, and the mute wonder lurketh in men's ears to hear his sweet and honeyed sentences, which is a wonder how his grace should glean it, since his addiction was to courses vain, his companies unlettered, rude, and shallow, his hours filled up with riots, banquets, sports, and never noted in him any study, any sequestration, any retirement from open haunts and popularity.
The strawberry grows underneath the nettle, and wholesome fruit thrives best neighbored by fruits of baser quality, and so the prince obscured his contemplation under a veil of wildness, which no doubt grew like the summer grass, fastest by night.
It must be so, for miracles are ceased, and therefore we must needs admit the means whereby things are perfected.
But how now for the mitigation of this bill, urged by the commons? Does his majesty incline to it, or no?
He seems indifferent, or rather swaying more upon our part than cherishing the exhibitors against us, for I have made an offer to his majesty as touching France, to give a greater sum than ever at one time the clergy yet did to his predecessors part withal.
How did this offer seem received, my lord?
With good acceptance of his majesty, save there was not time enough to hear, as I perceived his grace would fain have done, the severals and unhidden passages to his true titles to the crown of France, derived from Edward, his great-grandfather.
What was the impediment that broke this off?
The French ambassador, upon that instant craved audience. And the hour, I think, is come to give him hearing. Is it 4 o'clock?
It is, my lord.
Then go we in to hear his embassy, which I could with a ready guess declare before the Frenchmen speak a word of it.
Shall we call in the ambassador, my liege?
Not yet, my cousin. We would be resolved before we hear him of some things of weight that task our thoughts concerning us in France. Where is my gracious Lord of Canterbury?
God and his angels guard your sacred throne and make you long become it.
Sure, we thank you. My learned lord, we pray you to proceed and justly and religiously unfold why the law Salic that they have in France, or should not bar us in our claim. And God forbid, my dear and faithful lord, that you should fashion, rest, or vow your reading. For God doth know how many now in health shall drop their blood in approbation to what your reverence shall incite us to. For we will hear, note, and believe in heart that what you speak is in your conscience washed as pure as sin with baptism.
Then hear me, gracious sovereign, and you peers, who owe yourselves, your lives, and services to this imperial throne. There is no bar to make against your highness claim to France, but this, which they produce from Pheromond. In terram solicam mulieris ne succedent. No female shall succeed in Salic land. Which Salic land the French unjustly gloze to be the realm of France, and Pheromond the founder of this lord female bar. Yet their own authors faithfully affirm that the land Salic is in Germany, between the floods of Saale and of Elbe, where Charles the Great, having subdued the Saxons, there left behind and settled certain French, who, holding in disdain the German women for some dishonest manners of their lives, established then this law, to wit, no female shall be inheritrix in Salic land. Then doth it well appear the Salic law was not devised for the realm of France. Besides, their writers say, King Pepin, which deposed Childeric, did, as heir general, being descended of Blithil, which was daughter to King Clothaire, may claim and title to the crown of France. Hugh Capet also, who usurped the crown of Charles, the Duke of Lorraine, sole heir male to the true line and stock of Charles the Great, to find his titles with some shows of truth, though in pure truth it was corrupt and not, conveyed himself as heir to the Lady Lingard, daughter to the foresaid Duke of Lorraine, by which marriage the line of Charles the Great was reunited to the crown of France. So, as clear as is the summer sun, King Pepin's title, Hugh Capet's claim, King Louis his satisfaction, all appear to hold in right and title of the female. So do the kings of France unto this day, howbeit they would hold up this Salic law to bar your highness claiming from the female, and rather choose to hide them in a net, than amply to imbar their crooked titles, usurped from you and your progenitors.
May I with right and conscience make this claim?
The sin upon my head, dread sovereign.
Gracious Lord, stand for your own. Unwind your bloody flag. Look back into your mighty ancestors. Awake remembrance of these valiant dead. And with your puissant arm, renew their feats. You are their heir. You sit upon their throne. The blood and courage which renown them runs in your veins. And my thrice puissant liege is in the very May morn of his youth, ripe for exploits and mighty enterprises.
Your brother kings and monarchs of the earth do all expect that you should rouse yourself, as in the former lines of your blood.
They know your grace hath cause, and means, and might. So hath your highness never king of England had nobles richer, nor more loyal subjects, whose hearts have left their bodies here in England, and lie pavilioned in the fields of France.
Oh, let their bodies follow, my good lord, with blood and fire and sword to win your right. Therefore to France, my liege. Divide your happy England into 4, whereof take you 1/4 into France, where you withal shall make all Gallia shake. If we, with thrice such powers left at home, cannot defend our own doors from the dog, let us be worried, and our nation lose the name of hardiness and policy.
Call in the messenger sent from the Dauphin. Now are we well resolved, and by God's help, and yours, the noble sinews of our powers, France being ours, we'll bend it to our awe or break it all to pieces. Now are we well prepared to know the pleasure of our fair cousin Dauphin, for we hear your message is from him, not from the king.
May it please your highness to give us leave freely to render what we have in charge, or shall we sparingly show you far off the Dauphin's meaning and our embassy?
We are no tyrant, but a Christian king. Therefore, with frank and uncurbed plainness, tell us the Dauphin's mind.
Thus then in few. Your Majesty, lately sending into France, did claim some certain dukedoms in the right of your great predecessor, King Edward III. In answer to this claim, the prince, my master, says that you savor too much of your youth and bids you be advised that there is naught in France that can be with a nimble galliard one. You cannot revel into dukedoms there. He therefore sends you, meeter for your spirit, this ton of treasure, and in lieu of this desires that you let the dukedoms that you've claimed hear no more of you. This the Dauphin speaks.
What treasure, uncle?
Tennis balls, my liege.
We are glad the Dauphin is so pleasant with us. His presence and your pains, we thank you for. When we have matched our rackets to these balls, we will, in France, by God's grace, play a set, shall strike his father's crown into the hazard. Tell him that he hath made a match with such a wrangler, that all the courts of France shall be disturbed with chases. And we understand him well, how he comes o'er us with our wilder days, not measuring what use we made of them. But tell the Dauphin, I will keep my state, be like a king, and show my sail of greatness when I do rouse me in my throne of France. For that I have laid by my majesty, and plodded like a man for working days. But I will rise there with so full a glory that I will dazzle all the eyes of France. Yea, strike the Dauphin blind to look on us. And tell the pleasant prince, this mock of his hath turned his balls to gunstones, and his soul shall stand sore charged for the wasteful vengeance that shall fly with them. For many 1,000 widows shall this his mock out of their dear husbands, mock mothers from their sons, mock castles down, and some are yet ungotten and unborn that shall have cause to curse the Dauphin's scorn. But this lies all within the will of God, to whom I do appeal, and in whose name tell you the Dauphin I am coming on, to venge me as I may, and to put forth my rightful hand in a well-hallowed cause. So get you hence in peace, and tell the Dauphin, his jest will savor but of shallow wit, when thousands weep more than did laugh at it. Convey them with safe conduct, fare ye well.
This was a merry message.
We hope to make the sender blush at it. Therefore, my lords, omit no happy hour that may give furtherance to our expedition. For we have now no thought in us but France. Therefore, let every man now task his thought, that this fair action may on foot be brought